Okay? Show a good light for our industry, okay? You sure you really want us to do that?
We don't have alcohol.
Don't
But like you said,
get
it's
That can be fixed. Where's the glass, Carlos?
Open bar.
Where's that again?
I want to welcome everybody to the Bissman building. I don't know if any of you guys have been here before. It's a pleasure to have you. I remembered all your names. That's Sue, Shauna, Renee, Bill. But honestly, it's really cool to have you guys here. It's a great building. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a history on the building and tell you about our family and what's gone on. And what's really cool is we're in the backstage planning of turning this into a haunted house too. So you guys can have a lot to offer to us, as well as us just some exciting stuff to share with you and so forth. But like I said, my name's Benjamin Franklin Bissman IV. This is Joe James. Joe helps a lot with the building. He puts together the marketing stuff. He takes care of the investigations. Almost every weekend we have a paranormal group in here from all over the country. Do a lot of really neat stuff in here besides doing haunted investigations. Actually, his brother got married in here months ago, and we do a tremendous amount of photo shoots, which are really a blast. But you guys are here to talk about other stuff and the haunted side of the business. This was a wholesale grocery business. Never knew about haunted stuff. And I think the technology that's come along over the years, and most recently probably in the last 10 years, and the notoriety of ghost hunters and ghost adventures and all that stuff has really heightened the paranormal investigation field. And are many of you guys paranormal investigators at all, or a couple in the group? The rest of you guys just scare people? Awesome. But
Try to scare people.
since the technology has improved, so have the amount of evidence and stuff that's come into the building. And I'm going to back up. I'm a little ADD, so if I get too far off track, Joe's job is to keep me going in the right direction. But in 1853, my great-great-great-grandfather came over. His name was Michael. Came over from Hessen in Darmstadt, Germany, with 9 of 11 of his kids. It took 56 days on a steam vessel to get here. 2 of the girls stayed in Germany, and the rest of the gang took this Carnival cruise to America, which I'm sure it wasn't. One of the boys, his picture's up there in the top left, his name was Peter Bissman. He was one of the 9 boys that came over with Michael and his mother. And he got a job as soon as they got into the United States. They settled in a little place called Mifflin. And a lot of you guys are from around the country, so a lot of this won't mean much, but Mifflin's about 20 miles from here. There's a lake, and it's very similar to what it looks like in Germany. So this particular area that we're in has harbored a lot of German immigrants, and which was really cool because they brought a lot of money, and they brought a lot of technology, and a lot of craftsmen. So they came over in 1853. Peter started working for a company called Tracy and Avery, which was a wholesale grocer. And they delivered groceries out of a building that was right up the street. And it now is where the carousel is. And I think you guys might see the carousel as you book through town. I'm not sure if you will or not. But they tore that building down, our original warehouse, to build this. This building was built in 1886. Peter worked for TNA for a while. Started the Bissman Company up the hill, and then decided to come down here in the flats because at one time, even when I was a kid, this entire area from the bottom of 6th Street that way was completely developed. Dirt roads, but very rustic, and people didn't want to walk the hills, so that it was easier to develop down here in the flats. And historically, this has become the Bissman Flats. And decided to build this building in 1886, and it was really interesting because they collaborated with the people who built the prison. The architects were Alexander and Dow, and behind Ralph, now is a picture that I had painted by a local artist of the prison. And they shared technology because it was built in 1886. So you've got, we're so used to today's times and phones and mail and electricity and gas and automobiles and stuff. In 1886, that was all slim pickings. It was people lived off the land and horse and buggied it, and technology to build a building of this size or the prison was near impossible. But they brought technology from Germany and worked with local architects to design both buildings. They shared crews. They used some kilning techniques, which were really cool. And I don't know if you guys want to hear all the history, but it is kind of interesting just to learn how this was all done. They actually built the kilns on site to do all the bricks. The bricks are 4+ layers thick on the outside of the building. And when they built the kilns, the bricks that were closest to the heat became the hardest. And so they used those on the outside of the building, and the bricks that were the furthest from the heat, they used as interior. So it's kind of interesting, and I didn't know that till one of the old-time employees passed that story on to me. And that's where I've gotten a lot of the history. I've kind of been the family historian over the years. So they kilned everything right here on site. The lumber was all done here on site too. It was all plain, hand-hewn. You'll notice as we get you into the building and you get to see some of the stuff, incredibly unique building. It starts in the basement where as soon as you go down there, you're going to find out it's very cool. And back then we didn't have refrigeration either. You know, this is before the ice houses and everybody. So things were kept canned and cool, and they still made cheese and stuff like that, but didn't have a real good way to cool it until they invented the ice and the delivery system and all that stuff. So you'll find out that our basement is a cool spot in the building. And we recently had a flood in our building. We had a pipe break in February for our sprinkler system on the second floor. It's a 6-inch pipe, ran overnight. And then immediately when it went, it flooded the sensors to call the alarm system. The alarm system went off for about a minute. There was a resident that lives next door that came over, heard the alarm, and then he said it went off, but so he ignored it. Well, I got a call at 6 o'clock in the morning and from a friend and said there's water coming out your basement windows into the street. So we literally had a 6-inch high pressure water pipe on the second floor just devouring this place. We've got a screen printing business that's back in around the corner. It totally took us out of business until last month. Ruined our carpet, tore everything down. We were able to salvage a lot of stuff, but since we've put a lot of new stuff up, get a chance, take a look at our articles of incorporation on the wall over there. Those were saved, which was really important to me because those have some of the original signatures of our founders and some of our partners that we had in, and that I believe is dated 1893, which is a really cool piece. But our basement did get flooded. It smells a little musty down there, so if anybody's allergic to anything like that, I think you guys are probably pretty tough if you do haunted houses. But if you do have allergies, hasn't affected anybody. I just want to let you know, basement did get flooded and it's dried up, and the rest of the building got just a crap beat out of it. We came in, when I got here after he called me, the sprinkler was still running, and these stairs that go up to the second floor look like a water ride in Cedar Point. I'm not kidding you, it was horrible. The floors were completely, it was deep. Water was such a force. So we suffered that and bounced back real quick thanks to Joe and some friends and a lot of hard work. We got the place back in biz, which was great because I'm 53 years old and I've played in this building since I was 3 years old. And all the Bissman boys have always done that. All the Bissman boys traditionally were carried up the front steps in a baby basket. And we're yet to find out if that is a German tradition or a Bissman tradition. But my Peter wasn't, but my great-grandfather Ben the first was, and then my grandpa Ben the second was, and my dad Ben the third was. Of course, I'm the fourth, and I don't remember it, but I was photographed being brought up traditionally. And then we did it with both of our boys, Benjamin Franklin Bissman V and his little brother Bob the First. Now, I have to say that because Bob works in the print shop. If he doesn't hear that, he gets pissed. That picture goes back a few years because Benji now is going to be 22 and Bob's going to be 18. So, great kids. We've always had a wonderful family. We're hard workers. We're very giving to the community. We've done a lot of, we owned a Coors distributorship in town. When we initially got into the grocery business in 1878, we did groceries, beer, wine, and alcohol. And when I say groceries, we were a wholesaler, so we sold stuff by the case. And we eventually got people to label stuff for us, some of the stuff we did in-house. This here are some of our Bissman brand labels. We had Red Band coffee, Red Band, anything you could put in a can, we had canned, because once again, a lot of stuff was canned opposed to being, there was no other, yeah, it couldn't freeze anything, so. So we did a lot of that, and what really made it cool is we also did, we were coffee purveyors and peanuts. So every morning, and this goes back to marketing, you guys will appreciate this, we were very innovative in the marketing sense because we roasted our coffee in the morning, and it was very, you know, roasted, coffee Folgers in the morning, you can smell it. Well, our coffee roasted and it flowed down through the flats. So everybody would smell our coffee and get the urge to drink our coffee. And then at about 4 o'clock, we'd roast our peanuts. So then everybody'd smell roasting peanuts like going to the carnival or the circus, you know. I guess downtown just smelled like roasted peanuts. Therefore, they drank our beer and everything else, and ate our peanuts and stuff in the stores. We, yeah, so getting back to the building, the basement is the coolest area. The first floor is very heavily structurally built. We tried to keep a lot of the heavy stuff on the first floor because we had an elevator, and we didn't want to stress our elevators. So we decided that it was best to put the lightest stuff on the fourth floor. On the third floor, we put heavier stuff and not heavy, so, you know, we worked our way down from heavy to light, so to speak. But the nice thing about everything on the fourth floor being light, as a child, and my dad reportedly did the same thing, we used to go up and get into the inventory and build tunnels through all the boxes. So we'd mess the inventory up and move stuff, and we could literally make our way clear through the building as kids. Another neat thing that we did back then, we had conveyors on the side of the stairs in the stairway, and they were roller conveyors, and we had a great setup going that way. There's walls here now to prevent it, but we could actually get in cigarette boxes, the big ones, and ride them down these roller conveyors halfway through the warehouse, and then we had a belt that propelled the stuff further. So as soon as we'd hit the belt, it'd kick us in. It was just like going to Cedar Point. And it was dangerous, but we did have a lot of fun doing it. Another advantage of being in the grocery business was we not only controlled the beer and the cigarettes, we controlled the candy too. When I say control, I don't mean that like we were, the big conglomerate, but we were the only place you could get the stuff. So growing up as a kid, I started smoking real early, and I stopped doing that about 25 years ago. But I could get all the cigarettes I wanted, all the candy I wanted, and with candy I could sell it and make money. So I became a young entrepreneur selling cigarettes and candy and anything I could get my hands on. We were also a beer distributor. We moved our beer operations out of here in 1976 and built, we actually separated in the building in 1956 and built this addition on the side, and we moved our beer division across into this building where you'll see all my cars and all my junk and stuff. And so we separately, anybody in here ever heard of Stroh's beer?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Stroh's is a big brand of beer. we sold 1 million cases of Stroh's one year out of the building next door. And once you go in there, and they were primarily returnable bottles. So we did a heck of a beer business. Later we picked up, in 1980, we built a new building across the street, modernized, and kept our complete distribution business over there. But in 1976, we sold the grocery division to one of our original people that worked with the Bissman family years and years ago, with an agreement that we could buy the business back if they defaulted, and if they defaulted, we'd get our building back too. And we knew we were going to get our building back just because of the terms of the lease and so forth. But as it turned out, they defaulted, we got our business back, closed the grocery business, stayed in the beer business across the street. And in 1980, we built that, and in 1985 I got the Coors brand. And I had a little division over in Marion, Ohio, and as soon as I graduated college, my dad bought Marion Distributing, shipped me over there, and I ran that for 5 years. And I was successful enough to buy my business from my father. So I bought the entire Coors distributorship from my father, selling Old Milwaukee in a small town, which turned out to be really cool, because that let me get into the big time. And we later, we were too small to be a Coors distributor. Coors was the greatest thing that ever happened for us, and it ended up being our demise too, because Coors, to be a Coors distributor, you had to sell $7 million worth of beer a year, and that's right the number we were hitting. And in 1985, they decided you had to sell $40 million worth a year to be a distributor. And it was an effort, and in hindsight, we didn't know, but in hindsight, what was going on was Coors was in the process of merging with Miller, and they wanted to eliminate their distributors. And I just happened to be the second guy in the state to get squeezed. I was probably the smallest, but the oldest. And it was a sad situation. It cost me $1 million in legal fees to fight Coors, and I lost. So I put everything I had into trying to keep our family business going, but business is business. So we lost our Coors distributorship. We actually had the chance to sell it, and sold it to a great Italian family out of Youngstown. And they've continued and done a wonderful job with it. But point being, we got out of the beer business and kept this building, and I decided to lease it to an aircraft galley manufacturing company. Great company. They are world renowned. They take the little carts and so forth that go down the aisles, and when you go into the galley and see those little boxes, well, they remanufacture those. So they had a great business going on in here, and I had them in here for a number of years. But I happened to come in on a Saturday to get some stuff out of the building, and when you get into this office over here, they had, over the week, they had built an office in that office inside there. And when they did it, they tore down all the beautiful wainscoting. Yeah, and half of that office, they took it all down. And that's not even the sad part. The sad part is they took it home and they had a bonfire. They had a company party, and they burned all my wood. So immediately terminated their lease. Another legal battle, costed a bunch of money, but I got them out of here and taught them a lesson, because money doesn't rule the world. I think good people do, and good people should, and they weren't good. And the results were we had to fix it. So we tore the offices out, and there's a company up by the airport that does high-end milling of wood. So I took them pieces like this, and I took them some of the cross pieces, and they remanufactured the wood that's in that room. Not all of it. You'll see what's faded and what's not. And we took it all back to the best we could, just to preserve the history of the family business. And that, I don't know if you guys noticed when you walked in the door, but when you do walk across over here, take a look at the what are they made out of? Slate steps. And you'll see the wear on the steps. It's phenomenal. You don't see that anywhere. The foot traffic that must have been in this building had to be outrageous over the years. We did sell retail, so people could come in and buy a pound of coffee, but primarily we like to deliver to the stores. So here's another part of the history. There's a picture back behind her of the horse and buggies and one of our wagons. that we used to deliver product. And that picture was actually taken right behind all of us in the alley. There's a dock that's still there. So we used to deliver everything by horse and buggy, and because there were no automobiles. And we would deliver as far as you could get with a full loaded wagon with a team of horses, get it delivered and get the horses back alive, basically. And trust me, we pressed the issue. And one of the Bissman family members came up with this concept called stabling. And what we did was in our markets outside of Mansfield, because we delivered Shelby just 10, 12, 15 mile away places, but trust me, on dirt roads with a full load of stuff, you could tear up your horses pretty quick. So we started a thing where we stabled the horses in different markets. So we got bigger trailers, worked our horses real hard, but when we got them there, we fed them, bathed them, watered them, and they got to sleep for the night. And then we'd take horses that we had done the same thing with prior and bring those guys back fresh, let them sleep for the night, load them up, and haul them somewhere else. So we had stables set up all over north central Ohio just to expand our business the best that we could. And turned out to be a really good idea. Then thanks go out to Henry Ford. All of a sudden you got the Model T truck. And we were the first guys in town to get the Model T trucks. So now the biggest problem with Model T trucks was fuel. So we had to load fuel on the back of the trucks too to get out and get back. But that allowed us to keep our horses local and take our trucks far. So we ended up with about a 50-mile radius from this building. So we didn't quite go to Columbus and didn't quite go to Cleveland. But if you looked at our distribution circle, it was amazing for the time period. So we went from Model Ts to the Model As to straight box trucks, and developed our business to where we had 25 trucks on the road every day servicing Ohio, and it was really cool. But we ran into a few snags too. You guys, any historians in here know about Prohibition, you know about the Great Depression. Well, that hit, and that hit everybody hard. That hit the people. They were lined up at the banks trying to get their money out. They started rationing food, in particular sugar, flour, because people would hoard all that stuff. And the supply and demand, you know how it is today. Look at our fuel prices. We're at $3.99, and it's because it's a few little distribution problems. So we during the Depression, we took these little stamps, and I've got a few of them around here, but we try and keep them put up because we don't want them to disappear. But people literally got stamps from the government to buy their stuff, and they tear it off just like, anybody remember green stamps? Yeah, they're like green stamps, and one stamp got you a pound of coffee, and you could get a pound of sugar and a pound of this. Well, you guys are all familiar with food stamps too, and know how that goes. Everybody started doing the same thing. They started trading their sugar stamps for whatever they wanted to get, and for cash, so they could buy booze and stuff. So we did a tremendous amount of business with these rationing stamps, and through the Depression and Prohibition became a whole nother problem because we were in the beer business. That was a big part of our business. We sold booze. We also sold sugar, and they did a lot of, and so during Prohibition we were worried about going out of business, but a light bulb went off in Ben the First head, and he said, let's do some bootlegging. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you we're a bootlegger like the bootleggers that you watch on TV, but we controlled the sugar and a lot of the corn and so forth. So we made it through Prohibition, selling all the supplies to make moonshine. And we've got one of our old stills is out in the shop on top of one of my cars, and we're in the process of putting it back together just for something else for people to look at when they come into the building. So, like today, you know, America's been kind of tough times. Well, our family's gone through all that too and found a way to succeed and make lemonade out of lemons. But just the fact that we controlled the sugar was a blessing, because that got us to where we ended up. Now there's train tracks that come around the building. Some of them, most of them have been torn up. But we used to get a lot of our supplies in on rail. That was before they had the semi-trucks. So Mansfield has a tremendous rail system. And Crestline, Ohio has too, a real big rail system. Over there they had a roundabout where they'd switch out the engines and so forth. But as a kid, I used to help unload the rail cars. It was a very difficult job. But pull right up in front, and we go out, unload the stuff, put it on carts, and when you see our elevator, you'll see it's not very big. It was a real tedious job to keep inventory coming in and out of here. And we literally, in those days, did millions of dollars in sales. It was huge. Joe's an archive expert, and he's been able to get his hands on a lot of wonderful articles. And, this one here is pretty neat. Talks about, this one's got $1,621,000 on it, but if you look at some of the documents, you can see some of the sales amount. And back in 1907, for a store to buy $225 worth of stuff, is a tremendous amount of business. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, a little bit about the history of the business. Back in the back, you'll notice we've got a great safe. It's 5 layers deep. It was put in here in 1886. It's hand painted. There's some great hand painting artwork on it. Then you're welcome to take a walk into the safe when you get a chance just to look at it. When you walk in, you'll notice down to the right, there's a hole in the wall. And we kept all of our cash and silver and gold, because we traded and all that, in the hole back in the wall behind a false set of books. So we never kept any money in the safe. But if you get a chance, you can pull the main door this way a little bit, and you can see where we did get broke into one night, and somebody tried to drill our safe, but didn't get anything because, once again, we kept all the dough hidden in the hole in the wall, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Originally, the building had a clock tower on top, a beautiful clock tower. It burnt down during one of the roasting periods. We were roasting in the building, and how it burned up on this end and the roasting equipment was on that end, not exactly sure, but there is a burnt beam up on this end. So from a historical standpoint, I don't know exactly what happened, but it burned off the most beautiful clock tower. It's what really made the building. And if you look at some of the older pictures, you can go on like Bissman.com or BissmanBuilding.com, do a little history on the building if you're interested, and see some of the older pictures. We had huge smokestacks up the side on the top. Those are all gone. But originally there wasn't a balcony on the building. And at some point in time, a balcony was added on the 4th floor. It was a great looking balcony. But my job at about age 14 was to tear the balcony off the front of the building because it was decaying. So they roped me and I went out there and pulled it off. It was a hollow metal structure. It wasn't meant to sustain. It was just aesthetic. And Joe's been doing some really neat restoration of some of the old original Bissman stuff in the building. And you'll see a little bit of that next door.